Greetings, Shining Bulls and Shining Bears, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Crypto Astrology Podcast. We're going to take a look at what this week holds for Bitcoin and Ether price, but first, please always feel welcome to check out the Shining Bull website where I have all kinds of offerings for all suns, from a trading signals service, portfolio reports, to Vedic astrocartography, a partners reading, a one-question service, as well as several books and book bundle deals. And if nothing is within your price range, then simply follow me on Twitter, and that's important. And make sure to get notifications for this podcast, as I'm giving out a lot of free information on both of these. So let's take a look at this week in Bitcoin and Ether price. I, the astrologer, live in Newfoundland, and so all of this is in Newfoundland time, which is its own unique time zone in the world. So firstly, on Sunday, we are up for most of the day due to Moon's transit with Sun and Ketu in the Navamsha, and later because Mercury will shift into Scorpio in the Navamsha. This move of Mercury's can make a very strong upward retest towards 31,000 on Sunday night. Nonetheless, there are some important downward movements on Sunday morning and Sunday evening due to the transit of Moon and Mars in the Navamsha. But I do see the overall trend being up until that is Sunday night. So later on Sunday night, a very significant downward movement begins when Sun enters into trine with transiting Saturn. Next, on Monday, I see that we're moving steadily downwards due to Venus entering into Aquarius in the Navamsha. Then, on Tuesday during the day, starting in the morning Newfoundland time, I see us moving up due to Mercury entering into Ardra Nakshatra, which is also the placement of Bitcoin's natal Venus. But then on Tuesday night, a significant downward movement starts when Moon enters into Libra. Next, on Wednesday morning, there is an upswing in price when Moon enters into trine with Mercury in Gemini while transiting on Ketu in Libra. But then in the afternoon, there is a very significant downward retest that will initiate when Moon enters into trine with the Sun, who I mentioned will be in trine to Saturn, who's retrograding. This is an important down move that can potentially see us retesting as low as $26,181. Stay tuned for the news with a bit more detail on that before Friday night, potentially. Then Thursday is mixed. There will be some upward retests, but the continuation of the down move should be clear starting midday on Thursday when Sun joins Venus in Aquarius in the Navamsha. And then Friday, we are down the whole day due to Moon's entrance into Scorpio. But on Friday night, when Mars enters into Leo, we begin an important upward movement that will end up being the beginning of a bull run. On Saturday, we keep heading up due to Mercury passing Sun in Gemini. However, it's important to note that this upswing, which initiates Friday night, will be led by Ethereum, so led by ETH, who will have Mars transiting on natal Jupiter. And Bitcoin price, however, will show a much stronger upswing beginning on the full moon, which happens a few days later, happening on Bitcoin's natal Rahu. So that was the weekly forecast for the week ahead in Bitcoin and Ether price. For intraday traders, my signals service is best, and I have wildly reduced prices, and I also have created fun bundles so that people can get special deals by buying the books along with the signal service. And this is important too because my books give the bigger market context, which is also important to day traders to understand. But again, the signal service is specifically for intraday traders. Those are people who are placing several trades within one same day. I will be starting videos for spot traders soon, so I would really encourage you to get notifications from my channel. Okay, So coming up some nice stuff for spot traders. Okay, so now let's talk about two news items from the past week. First up, on Friday, Bitcoin price soared up to $31,341 before starting a fall when Moon entered into opposition to retrograding Saturn. On Tuesday, June 20th, of this past week, I tweeted an alert that because Sun's entrance into Gemini on Thursday, June 15th, initiated a strong upward movement that was only interrupted by one single red daily candle on Sunday the 18th, the day after Saturn turned retrograde, this meant that Saturn's retrograde was not as strong of a force as Sun's transit in Gemini to send Bitcoin price up. I mentioned this like as in Saturn's retrograde has a force that would be pulling the price down, but Sun's force is stronger, and that's what was seen by that. Okay, so I mentioned therefore that I do not see us falling below $26,181 from here on out. Since there is a gap on the CME futures that goes down a tiny bit lower than that, it is possible that we fall a tiny bit more than $26,181, but not much. The reason that 31,000 resistance is so important is because when Sun entered into Aries on Saturday, April 15th, Bitcoin price reached the 31,000 mark exactly, and then started falling from there. Sun in Aries is Sun at its most powerful. Sun signifies leaders in society, such as political and administrative leaders. And when Sun started his Aries transit, this is when political regulators started going after the cryptocurrency industry with a lot of harsh and what we see as unfair actions against us. Coinciding with these actions, and so that's specifically, as I know it, of US and Canada. Meanwhile, there's been some nice inspiring stuff happening in Europe, for example, and obviously Hong Kong. So, but anyway, US is obviously very important. So, anyway, but nonetheless, so I do see a retest downward this week, okay? But I see that when Mars enters into Leo on Friday night, leaders will start acting in a flamboyant way, supporting Bitcoin, and this will start sending us up in a strong and sustained way, beginning and toward what will end up being recognized as the bull run, powering through 31,000 and beyond. This Mars in Leo will be trining the beginning of Aries, where Sun originally set the 31,000 dollar resistance for us. And as I have mentioned in previous podcasts, Mars represents our industry's fight against unfair regulations. Okay, next I want to tell you about some interesting effects that Saturn's retrograde is having on our industry due to the fact that Saturn in Aquarius is now retrograding towards the degree of Ketu, who is transiting in Libra, while trining that same Ketu. And Libra, where Ketu transits, is the sign of the marketplace and of exchanges. And the combination of Saturn and Ketu creates actual surrealism. Okay, so two great examples of this are the digital assets-based fund Valkyrie, modifying its filing for a Bitcoin spot ETF, not only to list on the NASDAQ as opposed to the NYSE, but furthermore to name their spot ETF BRRR, as in money printer goes BRRR, like, you know, BRRR in capital letters. Okay, it's quite funny. And it's also funny because Saturn represents sustainability, and Aquarius, which Saturn rules, is the 11th sign of global finance, being the 12th from the 12th sign. And this ETF name is a bold poke at the non-sustainable nature of our current economic system. This kind of stuff is happening due to this Saturn transit retrograding and trying to Ketu and towards Ketu. Like, it's a great example. It's quite unusual and funny. Okay. almost like you're like, is this real? Is this actually real? Okay. So next, another example is that Binance turned the tables on the SEC by filing a motion for an order to direct the SEC to comply with applicable rules of conduct. This is in reference to the fact that on Saturday, June 17th, the day that Saturn went retrograde, the SEC tried to damage Binance's reputation in a press release stating basically lies which they themselves had only 4 days earlier on the 13th refuted. That's funny because that 4 number is a meme propagated accidentally by CZ. But anyway, 4 days earlier on the 13th, and Ketu is also related to numbers. So anyway, okay. So on the 13th, 4 days earlier, the SEC itself had refuted that, what they said in the press release on the 17th, which was a lie, therefore, okay? Because on the 13th, in a U.S. court of law, after the judge repeatedly asked SEC's lawyers to show evidence for their claims, the SEC responded, currently the assets are not going offshore. We are not seeing any flows of money outside the United States. Okay, so you can see that, as I have already mentioned several times, Saturn is a proponent and enabler of the cryptocurrency industry. Saturn represents lay people of the world and equality of power among people. And to give you an example, a personification of that Saturnian force and how it benefits crypto is Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's natal chart has a very important Saturnian influences. His moon, which means the way that he sees things, is very Saturnian. And in fact, his natal Saturn is placed where Saturn currently transits. And you see how much Michael Saylor has benefited Bitcoin and crypto. Saturn retrograding towards Ketu's degree in Libra while trining Ketu means that we will be seeing a lot more surreal events happen in the crypto space, which end up benefiting our industry in previously unimagined ways. Again, Saturn plus Ketu is surrealism. So that's all this week, and I will see you next week. Sorry for the delay. My external hard drive is like, there's a crisis with my technological setup. So anyway, I'll see you next week. Definitely check out my website and definitely get notifications, because I'll start some new exciting stuff soon on here for spot traders. Intraday traders, definitely consider my trading signals. Okay, to use along with your own technical indicators. And anybody who signs up for my trading signal service, I'd really appreciate, like, if you send me an email. I'll also remind you, but like, just to understand what you're working with in your trading, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing, and like your indicators and stuff. So yeah, have a great week. See you next week. Thank you.